Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news and sale news with me, Mark Goldbridge. I hope you're all doing really well. It's a bit of a mixed bag tonight, I've got to be honest. Some very worrying, if not surprising, updates in relation to the sale. The Glazers to be in charge for the start of the Premier League season and effectively have believed to put the sale process on pause. There's talk of money to be made from the Club World Cup, which is coming up, I think, in 2025, and the Glazers hanging around for better opportunities. Surprise, surprise. If Cilla Black was alive, she'd be singing in the background. We've also got the travelling squad has been named. Bit of disappointment there, bit of surprise in there. No Kovar, but Dean Henderson goes. We'll talk about that as well. Few comments from Ten Hag I thought were really interesting about the finishing today and how we've got to take those chances and we didn't take them last year. We'll talk about that. And also a little bit of a personal update from Rasmus that I got on my message that I think he'd be happy for me to share. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, nice update. Good lad. And I hope he signs for us soon. But let's get into the main crux of the show. I think we'll start off with let's get the negative crap out of the way first of all. There are some positives to talk about, like I say, but let's deal with the negative first. We're going to start off, I'll put it up on the screen for you. So look, it's interesting. I spoke about this a couple of days ago, didn't I? And said that the sale process to me just feels like it's on hold. There's a pause. The Glazers have stopped it. We know that there was the bid from the Qataris came in, what was it, like 5-6 weeks ago, their fifth and final bid, I think it was. So Jim's offer's been on the table for a long time, and there's not been any update in relation to that. So this is what Mike Keegan has said, who's been very good in relation to sale updates, and what he's basically saying is that there is now genuine concern around the sale of Manchester United, that those involved in the sale over whether the Glazers will sell. Some believe that the process may well be paused. The prospect of this lingering until the autumn or even the winter has been discussed in both camps. There's been a few updates come out today, which is interesting because we've sort of commented on it as a community that it's been very quiet for a few weeks now. You know, you couldn't move for journalists giving updates on the sale for about 6 months. And then over the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've said nothing. So today we've had a few people saying things. And I think it's quite significant that there are now concerns among those involved in the sale that this has been paused. And I think that it's funny because in the Mike Keane article, he said one source close to it has also described it as a charade. Well, if you don't know what the word charade means, it's an act or event that is clearly false. Everyone knew who was going to get the job from the start. The interviews were a charade, for example. So that basically means that somebody close to this thinks the Glazers are playing a game, and that they ultimately had never intention of selling the club, which is dangerous. And it goes on to say that Manchester United are not open. No, that's something completely different. Get rid of that. That's going to upset people. What's that there for? Bloody hell. You're trying to ruin me. You're trying to ruin me. No, it goes on to say that Manchester United are fully expected to be owned by the Glazers when we kick off against Wolves on the opening day. And you know what? I saw somebody on Twitter saying that if the Glazers are in charge on the opening day against Wolves, then why would Man United fans not react with total and utter disdain? You know, it's got to be more than protest. It's got to be, you know, ripping up chairs and stuff like that, which is, you know, but I in no way condone that, and I don't think anybody does. But I do wonder whether the Glazers really think that they obviously don't care. Look, I mean, let's be honest. This is nothing new. This is not inciting hate against the Glazers. What I'm about to say, I've said it for a long time, and many of you agree with me. They don't care. That like the people who get frustrated by this, they don't care. They absolutely do not give a toss about what we think, about what the media think, about anybody what football thinks. They're just making money. What a great way to live, by the way. They just don't care. They don't think we're significant. We are an asset which makes them money. There is no emotional attachment here. There is no guilt when they go to bed. They do not care. They look at the assets. Is it going to make them any money in the next 5 years? Yes, let's keep it. That's simply what they do. And they've ridden out storms for years. Like the Super League was a bloody disgrace. That was behind everybody's back, fans, football, the lot, and they rode that out with a Zoom call. They will try again to ride this out because they think they're capable of doing it. It's going to be very interesting to see what the reaction is from fans, because ultimately they have, if they stay in charge, they categorically have played us for idiots. Absolute idiots. And nobody wants to know they're an idiot. And they put this club up for sale in November. We've had months and months of, we could be owned by Qatar, we could go down the Man City Newcastle route, we could get a new stadium, we could get rid of the debt, we could get all this money brought in. And you know what? It's like, you know what? I'm not taking the piss out of people who are hungry, but imagine being starving and the Glazers are like there with a Big Mac, waving it in front of your mouth. You can have it, you just don't know when you're going to get it. You will get it and you're salivating at the mouth and then they eat it themselves and walk away. I mean, that's a very dangerous thing to do. Depends how many teeth the tiger's got. Depends whether a pussycat or a lion, because they're definitely poking. And, it's a dangerous game what they're doing. I don't know what the outcome would be, but I just think that, I think a lot of what they've done to this club is beyond a joke. It really hurts people. It damages them mentally. It damages them, passionately. And they've done that for years, the way they've destroyed this football club. But if they do what some people are hinting they're going to do now, actually lead this fan base on, flirt with it and say, yeah, that there is a future now, you're going to get your future, and then not do it. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about. I will give you my opinion instantly. I do not see how they can do this because they can't afford to do this. Qualifying for the Champions League doesn't get rid of their issues. Like, the Champions League's about 50 million quid. Ten Hag being a good manager doesn't get rid of their issues. The stadium needs 2 billion spending on it. The club is in massive debt. We could miss out on the top four next season, even with the transfers that Ten Hag's trying to do. I still think that they will bring investment in. But I think the Sir Jim Radcliffe offer is probably going to be the one they go with. If Avram and Joel want to stay, what happens to the fourth that don't want nothing to do with United anymore? Well, we don't know whether that's true, Darren. Mark, what can we do as fans? Because, mate, I'm fuming for a decade. It's been enough. What can we do as fans? Because I know everyone feels the same, says Sumi. We need to empty the stadium. That will send one hell of a message, says Tony. The trouble is, I don't think that's possible because I just don't think people will do it. Mark, the lottery in the USA is 1 billion. When I win, I will help Qatar get rid of the Glazers and make the United stand the PR channel, says Amir. Thanks for that, mate. We'll see what happens with it. There was also something that came out from The Guardian with Jamie Jackson saying that Al-Thani's getting really frustrated and starting to get concerned about how long it's going on. And then I think there was something about Sir Jim Radcliffe, who is prepared to wait till Christmas if he needs to. That's quite worrying if there's any truth in that. And when we're playing home games again and they're in charge, fans need to do more, get games called off, empty Old Trafford, says Cade. Look, I don't want to throw ideas out because people will say, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. I don't think you can empty Old Trafford, but I think getting games postponed was really powerful. The Liverpool thing, the club shit themselves, to be honest. Everybody knows that. All the fan groups know it. They absolutely crapped themselves when that Liverpool game got called off. I know fans got in the ground and there was all sorts of people on the pitch and they weren't happy about that. But the big issue was getting the game called off. The Premier League were really, really angry about it. The club absolutely crapped themselves. So, look, empty stadiums, protest outside. It depends how far people want to go. But that and the sponsorship things do bother them. The share price bothers them. All that sort of thing bothers them. So what I think the Glazers will do, and LJ says, I've never feared who was the new owner. My only fear was the Glazers staying for many years until the milk runs dry, debt too high and stadium too damaged. And had an amazing time at my first Manchester United game in Edinburgh. Good to hear that, Ross McRae. The first half chances show exactly why we need a striker. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, Ross. But on the sale process, I think that if Sir Jim Radcliffe is saying to the Glazers, take as long as you like, I'll be waiting, and then you've got Al-Thani saying, get on with it, I want to buy the club, then obviously that it leans more towards Sir Jim's going to win in the end. And I'll say this as well. Look, Sir Jim Radcliffe's very welcome to get his representatives to get in contact with us and tell us what's really going on. I don't think he'll do it. But you deal with the perception that you get. If Sir Jim Radcliffe and Al Thani both wanted to buy the club, we'd be sold by now. However, whether you like Sir Jim or not, he has delayed all this because he's given the Glazers a way out. He has allowed the Glazers to stay at the club. He's going to keep the debts, and he is telling them to take as long as he likes. That's not in the best interests of Manchester United. This transfer window has been screwed because of it. The start of the season could be screwed because of it, and all because Sir Jim Radcliffe wants to win. It's a vanity project. He's got no interest in what's good for United. He's got interest in what's good for Sir Jim. And by keeping the Glazers and delaying this sale and giving them a way out just to get hold of a club that he will not be in charge of in probably 10 years because of his age, I think this is a short-term vanity project that could do more damage than good. But, you know, what are you supposed to do if you're Qatar? Like, you're offering the money, you want to buy all the club, and you've got a competitor who's saying, you can stay, I'll give you power, take as long as you like. It's a really difficult thing to do. It's like the house down the road, your dream house down the road comes for sale and you've got the money. You put a fair offer in, you're going to get your dream house, and then somebody else comes along and says, I'll buy half the house and you can stay living in it. And you're like, what? What are you doing? And their plan is, yeah, because I'm going to give them half and eventually I'll get them out and raise some more money. It's a crap plan. It's a crap plan. But what are you supposed to do if you're the one who wants to buy all of the club? You know, people say Al Thani should offer more money. I don't think it actually matters how much he offers because Joel and Avram don't want to go. And Sir Jim is finding a way to, you know, help them win. It's but look, the big thing is that it's on pause, isn't it? They've stopped the process. They've stopped the sale process. That's what they've done. They've stopped it. That bid from Al Thani went in coming up for 2 months ago. So Jim's bid's been there for about 2 or 3 months. They've just paused it. They've stopped the process. Why? I have a feeling fans might resort to dangerous actions towards the Glazers, says Jared. Well, I hope not. I hope not. But there is going to be a lot of frustration, I think. Best thing we can do is concentrate on the upcoming games and transfers. Yes, keep protesting, but we can't keep worrying about this announcement, says the G-Man. And George, thank you very much. Look, if it puts minds at rest, I think that they will sell part of the club. But I don't think we're going to get a scenario where they stay in control completely. But I think it's... Yeah, I don't think it's going to necessarily... end the way many people want it to, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Let me just get rid of this idiot in the chat. Don't need them. I don't normally do any moderating. There we go. I quite enjoy it. Nick from Ireland says neither of them has reached the 6 million those rats want. I don't think they do want 6 million, mate. 6 billion, sorry. I don't think they do. I just don't think they want. I don't think Joel and Abraham want to go. I think that's what it all comes down to. Anyway, look, that's the update. Maybe we can come back to that a little bit in the show. I mean, what more can you say? What more can you say? You can't really say any more than that. It is what it is, and I certainly felt that over the last few weeks, you buy a couple of players, the fan base gets manipulated by it. I've said to you that there's fans out there going Murtar madness. You know, I don't know what it is. There's just something about the transfer window that people get hyped up on it. Oh, look at some of the players that are playing in pre-season. They look like they're better than Man City players. Oh, look at the players we're buying. We're going to win the treble. Oh, forget the sale. We're having a great time. 2 months into the season, reality bites. Everyone's moaning again because they've woken up. It happens every July, and. You know, Glazers out always disappears when Man United start signing a couple of players. They're not stupid. I mean, they treat you like you're stupid because they've got the book. They know. They almost know. I bet they know by month when they're going to have to get through it. April, May could be difficult if we've not had a good season. Around Christmas time, sack a manager if it's going too bad. They know how to deflect the blame, and they know that around July and August when they buy players, it'll all go quiet for a bit. Psychologically, they've got you on strings, and that's why they've paused this process as well. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about transfers. This is coming in from The Athletic. I mean, I want to get the bad stuff out before. This might be good stuff to you. Manchester United are not openly looking to sell Harry Maguire, though there is a willingness to listen to offers. I mean, this is coming in from The Athletic. I don't really know how to assess this one. Forget protests. This will cause riots at Old Trafford, says Mojo. This is stock price manipulation, and the FA should force the sale, says Tom. And thank you very much for those. So look, first of all, Wayne Rooney quite rightly said that when Erik Ten Hag takes the captaincy from you, he's putting you up for sale. The Athletic can write what they like, and Man United can tell the Athletic what they like. But I actually have a theory on this, and it actually doesn't bother me. Harry Maguire's been named on the tour. We'll talk about that in a moment. He was always going to go on tour because United were never going to sell Harry Maguire in 3 days from Sunday to Wednesday before we fly out. So he's always going to go on tour. And if we're going to sell Harry Maguire, it's probably going to take a bit of time for, interest to crystallise and decisions to be made about where he wants to go. So he's always going to go on tour. He's got to be pre-season. We've had Rafael Varane was on pre-season with Real Madrid for a bit before we bought him. So there's no issue with him training with the team, etc., etc. I think what this is all about is posturing. I think this is Manchester United basically saying that if they don't get the price they want or they don't get the offers, they're going to be stuck with him. So they're not going to openly say he's up for sale because if they have to keep him, they're going to look bloody stupid. So I just think this is just posturing PR. I think it's natural. It's a bit like what they've done with Dean Henderson, isn't it? They've took him on the tour because they've not had the offer they want from Forest. Dean Henderson doesn't have a future at United. He's probably not very happy he's going on the tour, but United have probably played the right game there, and I think they're probably playing the right game here. That's not a declaration that Harry Maguire's got a future at Manchester United. Erik Ten Hag sat him down at the weekend, literally and in reality, and said, "You're not my captain. You haven't got a future at the club." You don't need to sit somebody down and take the captaincy off them when they're going to be sat on the bench anyway. That there is absolutely no logic to Erik Ten Hag taking the captaincy off Harry Maguire unless he's telling him he's up for sale. And we've had this a lot this summer. Chelsea's price is getting on our nerves. We're in for Caicedo. We were never in for Caicedo. We've did it with Onana as well. And look, Harry Maguire's up for sale. Let's be honest. He's up for sale. I mean, that basically says he's up for sale. They're not actually looking to sell him, but they are open to offers. Well, he's up for sale or he's not up for sale. We're not trying to sell him, but if we get an offer, we will. He's up for sale, isn't he? We all know he's up for sale. I think that's just a protection barrier that if Maguire refuses to go or they don't get an offer in and they have to keep him, instead of looking stupid, they're like, well, we were never looking to sell him anyway. I think that's all that is. I'm not concerned about it. As we've said over and over and over again, Harry's going to have to wake up and smell the coffee if he wants to keep his England place, and he needs to get his agent busy on finding a deal that's good for him. Chelsea have come out and said they don't want him. I think Spurs could be an avenue. Obviously, West Ham, he probably doesn't fancy that. It's not easy to see loads of options for Maguire, is it? But he's got to find those options, and then they've got to come to the table with an offer that suits United. There's a lot of work to be done to sell Harry Maguire, but have no doubt about it, he's clearly up for sale because if I'm the manager of Man United and I want to keep Harry Maguire, I don't need to take the captaincy off him because Bruno's going to keep it. Look, it's the same as last year, isn't it? And you just say to Maguire, when you come on for 5 minutes, don't take the captaincy off him because it looks stupid. You're still club captain, but don't go near the captaincy. You don't need to strip him of it and get him to do a public statement. Mark, I think we have the power as a community to rally the troops and get rid of these Glazers. Best channel ever. Keep up the good work, says Nicholas. Thank you very much. And Tom Grant says, "Oh, the papers are so full of contradiction." It's a difficult summer, mate. It is a difficult summer because I think because of where United are doing a lot of their business, you've got, and we've had it in the past, you've got Italian journalists who are ridiculously passionate about their game. I bet you thought I was going to do an Italian accent then. Ridiculous. They are ridiculously passionate about their football game and their league. And we're delving into their league to buy their players. So you've got all these Italian journalists who know what they're doing. You've got the UK journalists who don't really, so it's a bit all over the place, I think. But, yeah, I mean, look, I want to talk about this, actually. I want to talk about the squad for Manchester United, but actually I'm just going to do this for you because obviously there's a couple of United players that I've been messaging today anyway because I've said you played really well and they have messaged me back. But look, I'm going to be open and honest here. Rasmus Højlund follows me on Instagram and has done for quite a while because he's a Man United fan. And professionally, obviously, I'm not going to go into details about transfers and he wouldn't do that anyway. But what he has messaged me quite recently and said is... I'm so rubbish on Instagram. It's amazing I even find the messages. Here we go. Rasmus. Hotter than the sun. smiley emoji, love to see it. So he obviously is aware of the hotter than the sun thing from either watching or seeing what people have been saying. So I thought that might be a nice thing just to bring into the show, considering we've had the horrible story about the Glazers. Be a nice thing just to bring in that Rasmus is aware of the hotter than the sun thing. And I'm not telling you anything about transfers, and he wouldn't tell me anything about transfers, to be honest. That's, he's a professional player who I just want, when and if this deal happens, I just want everybody to get behind a young player who has a fantastic attitude, and Ten Hag really wants to come here. He's a United fan and he wants to do really well. And I think that, I think the vast majority of you are going to get excited about it and get behind him. And I think that's the way it needs to be. We've got a relatively new manager in Eric Ten Hag. I think all his transfers have been exciting. And I think this one, it's not Ronaldo, but I like these sort of signings. I think this is what Man United should be about. We should be looking at I think there's such a contradiction in the fan base sometimes. It's like, we need a more experienced, proven striker. And I'm like, but then everybody moans when Leicester go and get a French midfielder that turns into one of the best players in the world. Why didn't we get him? Or, Ajax or Real Madrid or Barcelona go and get a teenager from Brazil who turns into a superstar. Why didn't we get him? Well, with Rasmus Højlund, we are getting a player who is, 20 years of age and has the potential to be something really special. And people moan about it. And I don't think it's a small minority, but these are exactly the sort of signings we should be doing. Where I do agree with everybody, and I think it would even be beneficial to Højlund himself, is that there should be a Harry Kane there as well. He should have a senior striker to learn from, because he's going to have to learn from Benny McCarthy and the coaching staff and Eric Ten Hag, because there is no senior striker like Ronaldo or Cavani to teach him the ways of the force at Manchester United. I'm sure he'll learn some things from Marcus Rashford, but Marcus Rashford's learning how to be a striker himself. So I do agree that there should be a top-class senior striker there, because Rasmus is only 20, but that's not his fault. We should be buying players like that. You look at Garnacho, perfection, teenage winger. He's got Rashford there. He's got Anthony there. There's Casemiro. There's experience around him. I know Casemiro's not a winger, but he is South American and he's experienced in Europe and the European scene. We should have a senior striker at the football club. But look, the club is owned by the Glazers and we're in debt and we don't have an infinite amount of money. Do you get butterflies in your stomach when Rasmus messages you? Loving the show, Mark. No, I don't. I get all sorts of people messaging me. Pop stars, actors, footballers. I'm just not that, I'm not on a level, I'm not that impressed by fame or celebrity. I'm not, because I've met so many people who are complete knobheads that I really liked. And it sort of pops your bubble and then you just realise they're people. I've met some fantastic people. Like I've said before, Danny from The Script, the lead singer, is one of the nicest people I've ever met, full stop. Not only is he a lead singer for a worldwide pop band or rock band, or I don't know what they want to class themselves. So I just take people as I meet them. If I meet one of you in the street, you might be one of the best people I've ever met. It's just how it is. I don't get impressed by celebrity. It's just, and it's a good way to be, actually. The funny thing is, Rasmus started following me way before, probably like April time, wasn't it? I don't know. Do you think we will get Champions League next season with the squad we have, says George? You'd bloody hope so. And in terms of the sale, the Glazers will have to leave. There are ramifications on all fronts if they decided to stay. It'd be stock price manipulation, says Ryan. Well, I don't know about that. I think I said this a year ago. The Glazers will sell because of the cost of the stadium, but they won't go. They don't have to go. They'll get investment. There will be some sort of investment into the football club, whether it's Sir Jim Radcliffe or not the Rain Group, the what was it called, the Elliott Group or something like that. If you was going to buy a young talented defender and midfielder, who would you go for? Says Darren Mulaney. Well, I do like Lavia at Southampton as a sort of Casemiro successor. I do like that. As far as centre backs go, young centre backs coming through. I mean, there's a couple in. There's one in Benfica I quite like, and his name escapes me. And there is, I do like Colwill. I do like Colwill at Chelsea. I mean, I think he's very, very impressive. I think he is really impressive. Anyway, let's move back to topical stuff. I do want to go through this because obviously Man United played today against Edinburgh. They're currently on the flight. I mean, they might be bloody watching. You know, the scary thing is they will have Wi-Fi. They're on a long flight. Some of them will be sleeping, but some of them will be on the internet. Some of them will be watching Breaking Bad or Oppenheimer or something like that, but some of them will be on their phones on social media, and some of them might well be watching now. So have a safe flight, lads. Enjoy the tour. Big season ahead from everybody on the community. But there'll be people in the chat going, nobody watches this. Yeah, check out my Instagram. Anyway, they do watch. They do watch. Because you know why they watch? They watch because of you. They want to know what you think. It's not what I think. They want to know what you think. They want to know what 19,000 people who are watching think. It's just the way it is. Not all of them. Obviously, there's some people who don't like us. I'm blocked by Fred, blocked by McTominay, but he won't be watching. If Ollie bought Hoyland, what would his nickname be? Razzie, says EG. Obviously, yeah. Mark, I've heard that the Glazers have to sell to Qatar. They are facing a lawsuit from the minority investors and the Premier League won't accept the Radcliffe bid, says Seymour. Well, things like that aren't necessarily helpful because they don't necessarily mean it's true, do they? But look, in relation to the tour, let's just have a quick look at this. So I'll put it up on the screen for you. This is the travelling squad for Manchester United's tour. And I suppose in the goalkeeper section, the first thing that jumps out is no Onana, but he will join up, of course. And no Kovar, which is rather interesting because is he already lined up for a loan? Does this mean it's more advanced with Suzuki? I mean, Dean Henderson going on the tour is a complete and utter waste of time, but it's a game I think United have to make. He has got zero chance of wanting to stay at the club because he doesn't want to be number 2 again. And Onana will be... I mean, look, if Henderson thought he had a chance of getting De Gea's slot, maybe he did. He's got zero chance of getting Onana's spot because he's Ten Hag's guy. So Henderson going on the tour is just United saying to Forest, we're not taking your crappy offer, you better raise it. It's a dangerous game, but they've probably got to play it. In the defenders, as you can see, there's not really any surprises there. Malassi is not there because of injury. Now, what I would say is, where's Johnny Evans? And I think there must be, and let me just come back visually for a moment because, you know, I like you to be able to see me. There must be a Wrexham squad travelling out there because Johnny Evans is going on the tour and we are playing the under-21s against Wrexham. So I don't know whether they've sort of... That squad we just saw there is for the Arsenal, Real Madrid, Dortmund game. And there is a squad that's going for the Wrexham game because there's not enough under-21 players to play Wrexham there. And remember, we're playing Wrexham and then Real Madrid 24 hours apart. So there must be another squad going out because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And I would imagine people like Hugel, Amaran, Fish and Evans and maybe even Kobar might go there. So Kovar might go with that. Let's just go back to the screen because a few people are talking about other players. And obviously we'll go through that now. So Fred's not there. Now, initially this was maybe because he was going to be being sold, but apparently he's got some personal issue and will join up with the tour later on. I wonder whether that's United just expecting an exit and they're just giving him a few days to try and sort it before he goes on the tour, if he goes on the tour. So I don't know with Fred. For me, it reads like he's probably going to be sold, but there might be a personal issue. There's a few players that obviously you'd look at that and go, well, Brandon Williams, but how do you sell him on 50 grand a week? Harry Maguire, we've already spoken about. Scott McTominay, obviously comfortable to sit on the bench. I don't think he wants to go. Palestri's probably going to get loaned. Donnie, even himself, we'll talk about him in a minute. Alanga, meant to be being sold as well. So there's a few people that are going on the tour that really, I think some of you probably will get a little bit concerned about. You'll be like, bloody hell, I don't want them on the tour. I want to get rid of them. But what are you supposed to do? United are terrible at selling. They're slow at selling. They're working on the Hoyland deal. What's the point in keeping Alanga or anybody else back at Carrington when you know you're not going to sell them in the next 2 weeks anyway? So it makes total sense for them to go on tour, get cameos, put themselves in the shop window, get their fitness up. And I wish some of them weren't going on the tour, and I wish they were being sold because it would bring money in to bring other players in. But logically, it makes sense. And the Dean Henderson's the biggest example there, isn't it? You know, you take him on tour because you pretend that he's part of your plans so that clubs who aren't offering what you want maybe do offer what you want. Did you done that one from Alfie? William Turner says, Mark, I've already made my mind up. The Glazers weren't going to sell. They are parasites and don't care about anyone. This club is finished. Thank you very much for your comments there, William Turner. Interesting that Donnie's on the show, on the tour. He's been on the show as well. I don't know whether you watched the interview. It's well worth checking out after this. We got an interview with Donnie van der Beek at Murrayfield. Faz was there with Ryan and asked him a few questions. And there was a particular question on there. Do give it a watch. Very, very, very grateful for Donnie taking some time to speak to us and speak to the fans. And you can check it out on the homepage. Asked him a few questions. But the big thing that stood out for me with Donnie van der Beek, he was asked a question about his future. And he basically said, look, you know, maybe I will be moving. We'll have to just wait and see. But the contrast between when we spoke to him in Australia, I think it was, or Asia last year, Adam spoke to him, and it wasn't Adam's fault. It's not just because Faz is more charismatic or anything stupid like that. It's clearly where Donnie's headspace is. Last year, he was like pale, sad, didn't look very happy at all. Today, you can see it in his face. He's confident, he's happy, he's positive. And that's not just because he scored the goal. He's obviously got himself into a headspace which we haven't seen. And that, whatever happens with Donnie, whether he stays at the club or he leaves, he's clearly a lot happier as a person. You can visibly see it. You know, reading people, 99% of the time you can read somebody. Unless they're playing poker, you can read somebody and they're just spending a minute with them and them talking. You can pick up how they're feeling. And I think Donnie's been such a sad person for the last couple of years at United. And it was great to see him today. Regardless of whether he stays at United, he just looked innovative. He just looked interested. He looked encouraged. And when he was talking about leaving, it wasn't like it was a sad thing. It was like, you know, if I go, I go. And I think that's where he's at. I think he wants to play football. He's feeling better. He's had a bad injury. And best of luck to him, because I loved this player when we signed him. We absolutely, I mean, Solskjaer made a lot of mistakes. He made loads of mistakes. And we can all rank them, but the treatment of Donnie van der Beek was just ridiculous. And there's a good player in there that's disappeared for 3 years, and I hope he can find that. I don't think it will be at United, but I hope he can. Mark, I really hope to see some of the United stand this Saturday at the MetLife, and I was impressed with Gore today. Which young player caught your eye the most? As Cody? I think today, Gore. I mean, I've spoken about Daniel Gore for probably the last 18 months. On the watch-along, I was saying, I get it. Somebody said to me about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago. It must have been 2 years ago. 2 years ago, somebody said to me, there's a kid in the youth setup called Gore. He must have been about 16 at the time. And they said, he's like a young Roy Keane. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard all this before. If I had £1 for every time I've heard about this, I'd have about £12. So, but watching him today, and I remember Roy Keane. Because when Roy Keane was coming through, you had people like Gary Speed, Ryan Giggs, these younger players coming through sort of in the early 90s, late 80s. You know, you get Match magazine and it was just full of posters of them. So I remember Roy Keane, and he was quite Roy Keane. I mean, I don't know whether it was his haircut, but he was quite, especially when he was at Forest, he was just quite straight, Roy Keane. It was just like there was no bulk to him. You know, in his United days, he sort of bulked out and had a shorter haircut. He was quite lean, and he was quite quick across the ground, and he used to score quite a lot of goals. He was real box-to-box breaking lines midfielder. And when I was looking at Gore today, I was like, you know what? He's not Roy Keane. Of course, nobody should be labelling him as the next Roy Keane. But he's got a lot to his game. I mean, he broke forward to put that cross in from the wing. He was physically getting into tackles. I mean, he floored one of them Lyon players, didn't he? He's got a lovely balance on the ball. There's a really interesting player there. Now, I'm not... If you'd have said to me 2 years ago, I would have said I think Hannibal might end up being a first-team player for United. So, and he still will, but it's not gone the trajectory I thought it was. I'm not saying that Daniel Gore's going to play for Man United in the future, but the next step for him has got to be the Ahmad route, which is get yourself on loan in the Championship, play 46 games every 3 or 4 days, get used to the physicality, and let's see where you are in a year. That's the next step for Gore. I wouldn't want him anywhere near playing in the under-23s or, you know, cameoing in the Carabao Cup. He's a midfielder that's got a really interesting skill set, and he needs to play every week, and he's not going to play every week at United. So straight into the Championship, and let's see how you go in a year. And that's what you got to do with the youth. Like, I think everybody wants a Ryan Giggs to break through or a Mason Greenwood to break through, and that rarely happens. It's about nurturing your talent. I mean, Garnacho's not a first teamer yet in the relation. He's not in the starting 11 yet. He might be this year, but he was cameoed in and out of the team. He was off the bench. Sometimes he started. And you've got to sometimes look 2 or 3 years into the future. And I think with Gore, you go, get on loan. Let's have a look at how you do. Next summer, let's have another look. All right, yeah, maybe another loan. Maybe I'll keep you for the bench. And that's what you do. Gore has a bad attitude. Remember the fight he had with Martial. Got to look out for that, says Hamid. In my experience, I don't think he's got a bad attitude. Hi, Mark. Could Van der Beek's treatment be because of Woodward after Rojo's interview on Maguire and Price spent on Fred and Pogba? Possible, says Sean. Thank you very much for that, Sean. I know, there was something I wanted to talk about next, that's all. Loan him to Carrick at Middlesbrough, says Perkett. Well, that could be absolutely perfect. And don't forget that... Did McKenna get promoted with Ipswich as well? I mean, I don't remember. No, I don't think McKenna did get promoted with Ipswich, did he? Or did he? I can't remember. I don't think they did. But if they did, that would be another good place as well, because you know what you get. You know what you're going to get with those people, don't you? But there's other good clubs in the Championship he could go to. Yeah, definitely. BV says, I think Mainu will go on loan as well. You never know. There's got to be one player that breaks through. Ten Hag will want one player that breaks through every year. And maybe it's going to be Mainu, maybe it's going to be Fernandes, who I think has done quite well in the last couple of games. Anyway, talking about Erik Ten Hag, I don't know whether you listened to him after the game today, but there was one little statement. There was one statement. Ipswich did get promoted, so they're in the Championship as well. So there's another option. And remember, Carrick and McKenna will know a lot about some of the younger United players. So look, obviously Middlesbrough and Ipswich have their own identity with their own fans who might not even like Manchester United. But the way football works is Michael Carrick and McKenna will know the United way. They will know a lot of these United young players, and therefore they're almost feeder clubs in a way, because you can just send them there. So I think that you're right. They'd be 2 good clubs there. Anyway, let me talk about Erik Ten Hag. He had a very interesting thing to say after the game today. I feel like I'm on TalkSport. Erik Ten Hag had some very interesting things to say after the game today. Cut to audio. Unfortunately, we can't afford the fucking audio, so I will tell you what he said. So basically, he said we had 3 big chances in the first half that we should have scored. We've got to score those chances. This was the same problem we had last year. And the sanctimonious Pratt in me rose straight to the surface, because I was like, I said this, and most of you said this. I said it in my match reaction. The difference between United in the second half and the first half was night and day, when you've got a striker like Hugel and you've got no striker, which is Sancho. The problem with the first team in both games, Leeds and Lyon today, was that we don't have a cutting edge. And Ten Hag is absolutely correct. But what I found really interesting is that Erik said, well, we had 3 big chances, you've got to score those chances. And we didn't score those chances last year, and we've got to do better at that. Well, we need a striker, Erik. The answer's there. We need a bloody striker. That's why you're not scoring your chances, and that's why you didn't score your chances last year. So what's the truth? We as fans can sit there and go, we know you missed all those chances last year. We know you missed 3 big chances today. And if you've got a striker, you'll score them. But you haven't got a striker. I don't know what to say, really. Erik's bloody exposed the problem. So he clearly wants to solve the problem. So where do you go next? So Erik Ten Hag is publicly saying we didn't score enough easy chances last year. We're not scoring enough easy chances today. We've got to put them away. Well, the answer is we haven't got a bloody striker. And why haven't we got a striker? Why has it not been prioritised? Why haven't we done it? And I feel like I'm going to get a sore throat from saying this, but Cristiano Ronaldo left the club basically a year ago. I know he started the season, but not really. He didn't really start. There was a lot of problems with Ronaldo. He didn't go on the tour. He didn't start a lot of games, and then he fell out. We never really had Ronaldo last season. So it's basically a year, isn't it? It's basically a year without a striker, and we're approaching the end of July, and we still haven't prioritised something that Eric's bloody exposing himself. Not literally. Andy Weatherall's gifted a membership. Big shout out to Eric. But look, some of the chances today, Ahmad had 2, Anthony had 1. I think we could have had a couple of more if Sancho had released the ball a bit quicker. But we're crying out for a goal scorer. And I think there's too much pressure on Marcus Rashford again. Like, I've seen a lot over the last couple of days since he signed his contract. And the vast majority, like myself, are very positive about Rashford signing the contract. It's a good thing. There are some people being negative. But what worries me is the amount of positive people saying he'll score us another 30 goals this year. And I'm like, he shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have the pressure of having to score 30 goals before a ball's been kicked. Rashford doesn't have a reputation of not picking up injuries. He will pick up injuries as well. But we're putting Rashford literally has had back injuries. And we're putting a lot of pressure on his shoulders before he's even back playing. I think there's way too much expectation on Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes to a certain extent to get the goals. I mean, Anthony doesn't strike me as the sort of guy that's going to get 10, 15 goals. Neither does Sancho. Garnacho's the great unknown, I admit. And that team at the moment looks completely and utterly reliant on Marcus Rashford. So, yeah, it was very interesting what Ten Hag said, because he highlighted the problem last year and then highlighted it again today. And I just think, look, let's get Højlund in. Let's start building our striker roster, because it's very, very thin. Even with Højlund, it's very thin. Even if we get Højlund, I still will say going into the season, we're very lightweight up front. You've got Rashford, who I really want to be on the left. You've got Højlund, who's 20 years of age. And you've got Martial, who's injury prone. That's not enough for a top club to have. It's very, very lightweight when you want to win trophies, get top 4 and do well in the Champions League. We're very lightweight. I mean, I would almost be saying, and it's not realistic, but I'd almost be saying we need to just hope we can get by till Christmas and then buy another striker in January. I mean, I'd love to see João Felix come to United, but he's going to Barcelona, isn't he? So I think we're light going into the season, and I don't think many people are awake to it. The workload that we're going to have to put in. A lot of these players haven't had a very big summer break either, and they've come off probably 2 or 3 years of really demanding football. But I don't think Højlund, Rashford and Martial's enough, even if they're all fit. I think that's very thin. So yeah, I mean, we need to crack on with that, definitely. Steph says, I still think the Glazers have to sell the club, and Rashford is not a complete player. Sell him. Oh, come on. Yeah, Rashford will drop off this season as he'll get found out again, says AK. No, I think it will be a big season for Rashford, but I think there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, especially at the moment. Hope you're well, Mark. We signed Johnny Evans. Why not get Chris Smalling back? We're signing ex-players. Recruitment team of Prats. Your thoughts, says Rizik. And it's been really tough at work the past few months, so don't get to watch live as much recently. Always watch afterwards, though. Keep it up. Love the United stand, says Lee. Yeah, big shout out to Lee and the chat. Thanks very much for tuning in. He won't go to Barca, Mark. Atletico want 80+ million for Felix, says Aimer. And hi, Mark. I'm from New Jersey. If your team needs rides or anything out while they stay in New York, I would gladly help around. Shan, you're an absolute legend, mate. And if Anthony Martial is watching, please let him know he's still my favourite player. You can turn it around, says Nicholas. Well, Nicholas, you're a legend, because you've just reminded me. I knew there was something I wanted to say, and it's difficult because I don't work to script, and I just sort of go with the flow and have a few ideas and work off a lot of this. Depot says 1-0 Mark. Stop whining. Oh God! Thank you, Gabriel, for binning him off. I'm not even doing a match reaction. What are you talking about? Going back to the previous comment, which was actually intelligent. Anthony Martial is on the tour, so I think we've got to take that as a positive, because Anthony Martial has obviously been injured since the week before the FA Cup final. So the fact that he's going on the tour, what's his fitness like? Because if Martial, and look, there's never going to be a part of me that doesn't want Martial to succeed because I like him. But, and I know there's a lot of you that don't like Martial, and there's a lot of you like me that do like Martial. But what happened last year is I don't do blind support. I'll back a player, but there's a point where you have to get logical. Casemiro is probably my favourite player at United because I think he's so important. If he was injury prone all of next season, next summer I'd say he's got to go. Even though he's one of my favourite players, I'd say he's got to go because you can't just be biased towards somebody that offers very little. So, yeah, of course, I would get rid of Martial. Based on last season, it was horrific. It's not his fault. I feel really bad for him. I think when he did play, he makes a difference. And that's my stance. I mean, look, if there's a miracle there that he can get fit and stay fit, he's a very valuable player to keep hold of. But I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it. So when I see him on the plane, I'm like, oh, Martial's there. Hopefully he's going to get fit again and play. But absolutely no trust. Martial's the sort of guy for me. He scores a hat-trick on the Saturday. You think he's back. This is amazing. And then on the Friday in the press conference, Ten Hag out of the blue says he's out for 6 months. And that you can't trust a player like that. And I think Cavani was like that, wasn't he? And Varane was a little bit like that in the first season as well. These players that you just never know game to game whether they're going to be available. And, you know, Bruno Fernandes, Martinez, there's a few others. You just know they're going to be there for the next game. And with Martial, you just don't know whether he's going to be there for the next game. So and if we think that as fans, then as a manager, how can you ever build anything? You need to build something, whether it's Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, you need to know that those players are going to be there for 80% of the season. If they're not, you can't build rhythm. You can't build tactics because those players are going to be out. McTominay's on 60k a week and Brandon Williams is on 65k a week. Source of info, Google Manchester United payroll list. I thought Williams was on 50k a week, but that's why we can't get rid of him. That's why he's on the tour. I mean, how do you get rid of a player that's living the dream on a contract he never should have been given as fourth choice left back? Thank you, Solskjaer. Again, I mean, I think I'd just put him out on loan. I don't know how many years he's got left on his contract, but I'd put him out on loan. But I think Brandon Williams should move to right back. I don't get. I mean, it's amazing how much we talk about him because really, if he wasn't on good money, I think he'd be gone. But if he's going to salvage his career at United, and I don't think he's good enough to do that from what we've seen so far, and I think he'd admit that himself, why is he not playing at right back? I mean, he's the most right-footed left back, and it doesn't look good. I've seen people like Dennis Irwin do it, and Cancelo can do it, but with Brandon Williams, he's so right-footed, he's imbalanced. Just why don't you play right back? It's the same thing. And you'd actually be balanced. I don't know why he doesn't play right back. I don't get it. Maybe because I don't know. I mean, he's not going to get in ahead of Wan-Bissaka and Dalot, maybe, but you're not going to get in ahead of Luke Shaw either. I mean, maybe he just thinks, probably quite rightly, he probably thinks left back's his best chance. But Ten Hag is the right manager at the wrong time. Glazers will not sell. They're rubbing their hands together, predicting he will start winning like Sir Alex, says Juan. How's your eye? Hope you don't get hit with a trimmer next time, says Sanjay. Thank you very much. Could we get a surprise signing being another striker on the last day of the transfer market, says Darren? Only if we had a new owner, because where's that money going to come from? Yeah. Interesting point there. We're all geniuses in hindsight, and we can all write a different past because it's irrelevant. We live the past that we've had. There was a comment from one of you last March that always resonates with me. And the person said, Ten Hag's done a great job this season. He's overachieved. It's almost miraculous what he's done. 2 cup finals, and he's got us in the Champions League. But I fear if it had just got us 5th and shown a bit of progress, that would have been fine. And the Glazers would have been in a big trouble because we wouldn't have been in the Champions League. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Ten Hag would not have got sacked if he'd finished 5th. But if we had finished 5th, would the Glazers still be here? And what I mean by that is Ten Hag's miraculous first season a bit of a sniff of the Glazers going, ooh, look at the positivity. We might have another Sir Alex here. Look, Sir Alex made us loads of money. I don't know. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? United start doing well, and the Glazers start going, maybe we'll stay. Maybe we'll stay. But there was something, I think, in Mike Keegan's article today about a reason the Glazers might stay as well. And it referenced the 2025 World Club Cup. So this tournament in 2025, in the summer of 2025, will basically be a World Cup for clubs. So think of the World Cup format now, 32 teams or whatever. In the summer of 2025, after the Champions League final and after loads of domestic football, they'll do a Club World Cup, which I presume will get hosted in Brazil or France or whatever. It's more money. It's more money again, isn't it? And that was referenced as a reason as to why the Glazers might stay. Also, individual TV deals, which will make a lot of money as well. So, the prospect of Man United being worth a little bit more money in the future will make the Glazers stay. The Champions League will still stay. I mean, basically, this is nothing to do with the Glazers, but what FIFA and UEFA and everybody are doing is they're going to grind footballers into the ground. They're making them play more and more and more and more. But, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. What amazes me, though, is if you go back to, some of the events over the last couple of months, we've had nights where people are saying, I've heard great things in 24 hours, the club's going to be Qatari. That there was that night on the Monday where the market price went massively up. And we're still in this situation where we're owned by the Glazers and they're talking about staying. It's mad. United should be looking at Santiago Jimenez, says Eber, and only me that thinks City is selling themselves out a Premier League trophy this season. 100 million on a right back is not enough when all those players are out or going out, says M. I do not know what that means. I don't know what that means. What do you mean 100 million on a right back is not enough when all those players are out or going out? I don't know. I think he means that our Man City are a bit vulnerable this year because Mahrez has gone, Gundogan has gone. I don't know who else has gone from Man City. Kyle Walker maybe. They're still a bloody good team though. Hi Mark, hope you well. They've got some bloody good young players coming through Man City as well. Hope you're well, says John. One day we will wake up and the Glazers will have fucked off. Any news on Alanga to Everton? No, there's news on Alanga to New York because he's flying there now. But there doesn't seem to be anything imminent on these transfers at the moment. Icy Duck, wasn't the sale imminent yesterday? That's what the Bloomsburg article said. Yeah, that was the update, wasn't it? But yeah, they bought Bardiel's not a right back. Bardiel's a centre back. He's a left-footed centre back, so he's definitely not playing at right back. But that's the Man City model now, isn't it? They buy one player for about 100 million each summer. It's a very good model, and United should have done it years ago. You win the league and you add a cherry on the top. You win the league and you add a cherry on the top. They did Grealish a couple of years ago. They did Haaland last year, and they're going to do Vardiel now. And they normally bring 2 or 3 in, but there's always one really expensive signing. And the model works. I think Man City win the league. I think the Man City win the league quite comfortably, and it'll be a shock if they don't. Bernardo Silva's not gone yet. I mean, look, I've got to say, if City lose Bernardo Silva, Kyle Walker, Gundogan, and Mahrez, I think that does weaken them. I think they're all good players, and I think they're all important players. And but there's talk of Frenkie de Jong going there. So if they get Frenkie de Jong, Eric's going to go crazy, absolutely crazy. Vardiel's a good player. He is a good player. Right, okay, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. What day is it? Wednesday. Remember, we're playing Arsenal 10 o'clock on Saturday night. We'll have a watch along for that. But obviously, we'll be back with you tomorrow in the morning, as per usual, and we'll see. I didn't say it. Rizek says, we've done that from Rizek. I didn't say it, but I'll say it now. Anana tomorrow, official. If you're interested. He's done his medical, he's signed his contract, the official stuff will be tomorrow. But if you watch this morning show, we've already got his interview. So yeah, it'll be official tomorrow and he'll fly out. We just need to get an Arna training, don't we? Min says we're going to win the league. There we go. Take care, everyone. You're all legends. Smash a like on video. Speak to you later. Thank you very much for watching and take care. And don't forget to watch the Donny van der Beek interview. It's only 5 minutes long. Just go to the homepage. Donny van der Beek on the United stand. Really, just go and look at his face and tell me that there's no... Tell me how different he comes across. He looks exuberant, happy, excited. Really, really, just go and watch it. It's actually quite heartwarming to see Donny like that.